everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I have for you guys a really exciting video, at least in my opinion, that just like struck me in the inspiration just hit me and I got really excited about it and I was like, I really want to film this right now. So here we are, and that video is a movies versus books video. I'm gonna be comparing the movie adaptation of books that I've read to the books themselves. Okay, yes. And I just picked 15 adaptations and I've read all these books, so I feel like that gives me a bit of a better leeway to talk about how they compare to the book if I actually read the book. And I watched these movies, some of them multiple times, some of them just once, some of them I haven't seen in a couple of years, some of these books I haven't read in a couple of years, but yeah, I just figured this would be a fun thing to do, especially now when there's so many movie adaptations coming out and from books. And obviously these are not all of the movies I've seen based on books, but I just picked the ones that I felt like I could talk about easily. Also, just as a disclaimer, we all get very defensive about movies and books, but just know these are just my opinions, and I also recognize that it definitely matters whether or not you read the book or watched the movie first. And I also think it matters like when in your life you read them versus when you watched them, if that makes sense. But anyway, yeah, we're just gonna dive right on in because I'm like excited to do this video. Okay, so first book versus movie we're gonna talk about is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte versus the Jane Eyre adaptation made in 2011. If I remember correctly, that adaptation had Michael Fassbender in it, who played Mr. Rochester. Is that his name? I should know that. That's definitely his name. Anyway, so I watched that movie right after I finished Jane Eyre, and I read Jane Eyre, I think in 2019, it may have been 2020. I know it was the summer, and maybe it was 2019. And so I just watched the movie right after I finished Jane Eyre, and so I was really comparing them like segment by segment. I don't remember a lot about the movie, so that means the book is the winner. Also, this book is one of my favorite classics, like second favorite classic. So I really enjoyed the book. I do remember thinking the movie captured the atmosphere, the gothic, moody atmosphere pretty well. I don't remember much about like the casting or how well they casted it. So clearly I didn't like the movie that much, and I've never rewatched that movie. So book wins. I should probably rewatch it, but I just remember liking hearing Jane's inner monologue and her thoughts more, and obviously you don't really get that in a movie, which is one of the biggest downsides to going from book to movie in my opinion. But yeah, I just remember connecting a lot more with Jane in the book. So book wins. Next book versus movie we're going to talk about is a controversial one, and that is Dune versus the 2021 adaptation of Dune. I read Dune purely so I could watch this movie. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was not on my radar. I never even really heard of it until this movie buzz started going, and I love Timothée Chalamet, so I was like, I've got to watch it. And to do that, I need to read this book. And I never would have read this honker if it hadn't been for the movie coming out. That is to say, I really did enjoy Dune. Like, I think it was on my favorites of 2021 list. Like, I really actually enjoyed it, and I continued the series, at least for the next 2 books, and I did enjoy it, no, despite the fact that it's like 1,000 pages long. However, I've watched the movie, I think 3 times now. I really enjoyed the movie. I know a lot of people didn't. I really loved it. I liked the cinematography, I liked the casting. Granted, it was slow, I get that, but this book is slow. And after watching the movie the first time, it helped me understand things from the book that I hadn't previously understood. And it definitely helped me visualize things like there's a like transporter and I never could understand like what they were talking about when they were discussing it in the book, but in the movie I was like, that makes so much sense. And in the movie, like the first couple lines of like exposition or narration explain something I had been confused about for this entire book. And so I just feel like the movie did a better job of not really world building, but it definitely made it simplified, which is what I needed because this world's very complicated. And I do feel like they did a really good job with casting, and I love the cinematography. And I watched it over and over again, despite the fact that it's like 2.5, 3 hours long. So movie wins over book. Sorry. And I'm excited to see like what the future movies do with these honkers. Next one we've got to talk about, I've got some feelings, and that's Persuasion. And the adaptation I will be talking about is the 2022 adaptation that just came out on Netflix that I watched this weekend. When I heard there's going to be a Netflix adaptation of Persuasion, I was so excited. I was thrilled. I reread this book very quickly last month in preparation because I hadn't read it since 2020, I think, 2021, I'm not sure. But it had been a couple of years, and I just needed a refresher. And this is my second favorite Jane Austen book. So I had high expectations. And I was thinking it was going to be like Pride and Prejudice vibes, was kind of 2005 Pride and Prejudice, which is also will be discussed in this video, but I kind of thought that's where it was going. And then I saw the trailer and I was like, no. No. And so granted, my bias was already kind of in favor against the movie before the movie even came out, but my fears were reconfirmed when the movie came out. And I'm not alone in this critique, I know. That movie, if you've watched Fleabag, you'd know what they were trying to do. And to me, it just did not work with this book and with Anne Elliot as a character, because in this book, I feel like Anne is almost one of the most mature of Jane Austen's heroines, because she's very reserved, she's quiet, she has let people in her family and her friends walk all over her entire life, which has led to some very real repercussions in her love life. And in the movie, I feel like that just kind of got lost in translation. And the casting, like I liked the casting. I know some people didn't like Dakota Johnson as Anne, but I just feel like she worked with the character she was given. I'm not sure how she would have done as playing like the Anne from the book. Also, the whole vibe was just not what I wanted. I feel like they were trying to go for Emma, 2020 Emma, but they really like it didn't work for that book. So in conclusion, book wins by a long shot. I hated that adaptation. Like, I did not like it. I was so disappointed. But what can you do? You know, like, it's over now. At least we'll always have the book. Next. This is funny. Next book is Coraline. So just to preface this, Coraline has been my favorite movie of all time for more than half of my life. I watched it when it first came out and it terrified me as a child, and I totally understand the validity of those who say it still terrifies them to this day. However, over the years, I just really grew to love the animation style and the storytelling, and it is my comfort movie. If I put that movie on when I'm sick, I feel so much better. It was my favorite movie for a long time, and it still is top 2. There's another one on this list that they kind of duel each other. And so I watched that movie probably like 30 or 40 times before I ever read this book. And I knew it had been from a book all that time. I just never read it. And a couple of years ago, I read this over Halloween just to see the comparison, and movie wins, which I wasn't really expecting the movie not to win, but it won by a long shot. They did a good job, in my opinion, like translating everything. It was basically like reading a screenplay. There were a couple of minor details that were different, but nothing really to sway me in one way or the other. I just feel like the movie was such a staple in my life for so long. Nothing really could have compared. I don't know how I would feel if I had read this one first. The movie is still, in my opinion, like loads better. Not to hate on the book or anything. No hate to the book, but the movie is like iconic. And it's my favorite movie, so movie wins. Oh, this next one is another one that has garnered a lot of discussion over the years, and that is Percy Jackson. So they only did the first 2 books in the Percy Jackson series into movies, and we all know what I'm gonna say, book wins. Like, it's pretty obvious. I think everyone feels that way. I can't remember. I think I had watched the movies no, that's wrong. That's wrong. I had watched the movies before I ever completed the series, but I had read the books first. And when I first watched the movies and when I first read the books, I was too young to really like understand the minute details of things like casting or, you know, like plot direction and that kind of stuff. Now looking back, I do love Logan Lerman as Percy. He is way too old, obviously, in those movies to be the 11-year-old he is in the first book. But I did think like his personality and appearance replicated my image of him, and really even rereading these like I did this past year video in the cards, he was still kind of the main inspiration for the vision of Percy I had in my mind. However, like, I just don't think they did a good job capturing the essence of these. And the first movie is enjoyable entertainment-wise, but in comparison to the book, I just feel like it misses the mark. Not to say I hate the movie. Like, I would watch it if it was on TV and nothing else was on, and I wouldn't be mad about it. Like, I know a lot of people are like hate the movies, and I'm not one of those people. I just think the book is better, and I am excited for the new Disney TV show. Hopefully they do a way better job than the movies did. But I just think the book was way better. So this next one. Little Women. Little Women. I could have done either adaptations, but I picked the 2019 one because I just rewatched that one not like a couple of months ago, and that one is my favorite of the adaptations. So we're comparing Greta's version of Little Women to the book. To preface this again, I didn't watch that adaptation before reading it, but I had seen the, I'm not sure what year it was, the one with Winona Ryder, like multiple times before I ever read this book. And I read this book before the new adaptation came out, I'm pretty sure. Or was it after? I think it was before. And just in my opinion, the movie wins. And I would say the other adaptation would win over the book too. The book was kind of, it was good, but it wasn't great. And to me, the movies are like awesome and I love them. And especially the 2019 version was so original, and I feel like captured the characters a lot better than the Winona Ryder adaptation. I don't know what year it was, or I would say, but I just feel like it brought it to life and brought it a new vivacity without losing its core central feelings and emotions. I did enjoy the book. I was just like, both adaptations do well mirroring it. It wasn't like there were really big discrepancies, and so there wasn't a lot for me to there wasn't a lot of new things to discover in the book after I had watched the movie. And so, I don't know, the movie is just better. And I feel like in the 2019 version, they did a great job casting. The writing was awesome. Acting was awesome. The scenery was awesome. The vibes were awesome. I loved that movie. And so, yeah, movie wins. Score 1 for movie. Should I be keeping a tally? Oh my god. Insert tally here. I'll go back. Let's tally. Next book is The Woman in the Window. And Netflix also maybe there's a theme here. Netflix adapted this book into a movie, I think in 2021, might have been 2020. I don't know, time is a blur. And I read this after knowing about the movie, but I definitely read this before. And I actually really enjoyed this book. I gave it like a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It was thrilling. It kept me engaged. I read it in like 2 days. I was sucked in. It got me. The twist was twisty. It was suspenseful. I really enjoyed it. Then the movie came out. And granted, I watched the movie like a year or a year and a half after I read the book because it was like delayed in production because of COVID. I hated the movie. I love who was in it. Amy Adams. That's her name, right? Oh my god, I feel bad. I love Amy. There's a way around that. And yeah, but I just don't think it was kind of so bad it was funny. I'm not sure if that's what they were going for, but that wasn't what the vibe in the book was. And I don't know, I hated it. I felt like it was goofy in places that were supposed to be tense, and it just didn't fit the book at all. It didn't fit my imaginings. I was thinking like Gone Girl kind of adaptation, and that's not what we got. We got like a Scary Movie parody adaptation or something. I'm not sure what they were going for, but I just remember I hated the movie, and I really enjoyed the book, and so it was really disappointing. So book wins, period. I've got nothing else to say. Okay, next book I have read, but I don't have a physical copy of. And that's Sir Gawain the Green Knight versus the Green Knight, which was adapted in 2021. I had to read this book for a class, actually 2 classes a year ago, and he played the film for us to watch. And so, deep breath. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it, the book won. I really enjoyed the original, well, not book, it's an epic poem. I really enjoyed the original source material. Keep in mind there are different like translations, so if you want to go look, I would research the best translation for you. But I really enjoyed reading it both times and studying it, and felt like I had a really good grasp of it before I went to the movie. And my professor had warned us, like, this movie is trippy. And he's such a geek. He was like, he's in a medieval professor's academia group chat, and he was like, this movie was buzzed about between these medieval researchers for like weeks. And so I had kind of already had that in the back of my mind, but nothing could have prepared me for how weird it truly was. And I think I've rewatched it since then, maybe. I think I've seen it twice now. And the poem wins. Listen, I loved the casting, and I do like understand, I think, what they were trying to do in the movie, but it was just the differences they made to the original source material. It changed like the characters and the moral lesson of the story entirely, in my opinion. And but I do think like the acting was great, the cinematography was great, but if I hadn't read the original first, it would still have been like a trippy movie to watch, but I would have liked it more. And I think A24 did it, if I'm not mistaken. And so like, if that means anything to you guys watching this, then if you know, you know. But I just liked the original book better. but the movie was still really good, and I would watch it again. I just like the original better. The next one is gonna be something else. The Hunger Games. The Hunger Games. Okay. So, just to preface this, I have a deep emotional attachment to both forms of this piece of media right here. On the one hand, I read this in like 5th grade, right before the movie came out, and I loved it. And it really sparked my interest in YA or dystopian and fantasy, and like kind of more, it's not adult reading, I mean this one kind of was, but more mature reading interests. And so for that, I have a lot of respect and love for this book, and I feel like a lot of people relate to that. However, the movies are so good. And I reread this book last year, and after I finished each book, I rewatched the movies for the first time in many years. And like, especially the first movie and then Catching Fire, the second movie, there's something about them, like, it just brings me back to a better time. And I have to say, I think movie wins. And that's like for the whole franchise too. There's just something about them. The casting I felt like was awesome. They will always be Katniss and Peeta and Gale in my mind, and when I reread these, like, that's who they are. I can't picture anyone else doing it. I feel like especially the first two really captured the mood and the vibe of the first two books. As far as I can remember, they didn't change too much. They stuck fairly, they were very, what's the word? Respectful to the book, and they didn't change a lot. And I don't know, the movies, there's, like, if I had an option to either watch the movie or reread the book, I would watch the movie like a million times. Which, I love the book, don't get me wrong, I think they're great, but the movies are just special. So movie wins. So next book is Howl's Moving Castle. And again, to preface this, I had watched Howl's Moving Castle like a bunch of times before I read the book. And I read the book last year, and Howl's Moving Castle's now dueling Coraline Every Day It Changes for my favorite movie of all time. That is now my ultimate comfort movie. The playlist, the soundtrack is probably my favorite scores ever. One score in particular, The Flower Garden, every time I hear it, it brings a smile to my face. I could be crying, and if I hear that music, it's like everything is right with the world. I want to get married to that song. And so I was already partial to the movie, and I will say they changed a lot with the movie. Like, there were significant changes, but I feel like you still get the same central moral lesson and story. And I don't know, man, the movie is, it would be hard to beat it. And I did not expect the book to beat it, and I really enjoyed this book. It was more like middle grade vibes, I think, just like writing style wise, but the movie it's beautiful. The animation is excellent. The score is excellent. It's honestly some of the most gorgeous visuals I've ever seen, animated or otherwise, of like anything. And my love for that movie, like, I just don't think it could be beat. So movie wins again. Okay, next book is going to be interesting, and that's Pride and Prejudice compared to the 2005 Pride and Prejudice. I'm pretty sure I had read the book before I watched the movie, and I read the book a couple of years ago now, so really the most prominent thing in my mind is the movie. But I've got to say, movie wins. That movie is so good. The score is so good. The acting is so good. They casted it perfectly. Just like, he really captured the vibe of the longing and intense but repressed emotions that are always present in Jane Austen's books. And I do want to reread this book because, like, it's my 3rd favorite or my 4th favorite, and I feel like that might change now if I reread it, annotated it, and this was my first Austen I had ever read. So like I feel like some situational things regarding my reading experience might change the comparison, but right now movie wins, and I love that movie and I'm not alone in that. It's beautiful. So movie wins again. Next one is Rebecca. Again, Netflix adapted this in 2020. And I read this book. I had already bought this book. No, I heard the movie was coming out and I bought the book and I read it. And, you know, book wins again. Maybe Netflix is the deciding factor of who wins. I did like the movie. I thought the casting was great, besides Armie Hammer. Like, I feel like they somewhat captured the vibes. I do think the book was more gothic and spookier, like, ambiance-wise, and the movie was kind of more like it took a thriller approach, which wasn't what I got from the book. The book is long, well, relatively long, and I do remember, like, it wasn't my favorite classic, but I watched the movie right after I read the book, and I remember liking the book better. And, I don't know. I don't have anything else to say. Book wins. Okay, next one's gonna be hard. My air conditioning just kicked on. And that's Emma. I actually think it's a draw. Listen, I love the 2020 adaptation of Emma. I had watched it 2 or 3 times before I read the book. And although I gave the book 5 stars and it's my new favorite classic, I do think my love for the movie influenced my reception and already like great admiration for Emma. So I'm not sure if I had read the book first what my opinions would have been, but I honest to God can't choose. If I had to choose, like if I was being held against my will and had to choose, I would probably say movie, just because the casting was so excellent. The score was awesome, but I can't find it anywhere. The scenery was awesome, the vibes were great, costumes, just like the whole ambiance of that movie was really great. But I also feel like they drew it from the book, and the whole book kind of had that vibe. And that is by far my favorite Jane Austen adaptation of any of the ones I've seen. And it's a new comfort movie of mine. Like, I bought it on Blu-ray and I've been watching it a lot. I don't know. It is a draw, but like, I'm not gonna add one to either, or I could add one to both. Let's do that instead. I really enjoyed the movie, but I also really loved the book. Next book, Perks Being a Wallflower. I honest to God cannot remember which one I read and or watched first. It might have been the book, but it might have been the movie. I know I read and watched it about the same time. And this book was my favorite book of all time for a significant portion of my life, and it's still like in top 10, I think. But I also really like the movie, and I feel like they again did a good job translating just the overall message and the feelings and emotions in the book to the screen. I really like the casting. Introduced me to Heroes by David Bowie. Both make me cry. But I feel like emotionally, I would probably have to say the book, because I read this book at a really difficult time in my life, and I really connected to it, and I still connect to it to this day, and I've read it a million times. So I think book wins, but I also really love the movie, and I'm prone to watching the movie more than reading the book, although it's really short. I think I've read this in one day before, but yeah, I really like both, but I think book wins. And to end this video, we're going with a book I spent a lot of time talking about last year, and that's Anna Karenina, compared to the 2012 Anna Karenina. And that was done by Joe Wright, I'm pretty sure, which is the same guy who did 2005 Pride and Prejudice. So I had a lot of hopes for that, and Keira Knightley was in the adaptation. I didn't like either of them. No one gets points. The The book was okay. It was very ranty, it was very long. So the movie definitely cut back on some of that stuff. But I also feel like the movie was not like Pride and Prejudice, which I expected. And I would have liked it more. And they did take a very different, like, stylistic approach to the movie that I didn't necessarily thought fit with the book. I did like Keira Knightley as Anna, and I remember liking the main guy. What's his name? I can't remember the name. However, I also remember the movie cut out Levin's point of view, which was like, it was like dual storied in the book, and the movie kind of cut out his story, which was 50% of the book. And by the end of this book, Levin's story was the one that I actually wanted to hear about the most. And so I was really disappointed in the movie with that too. So of the two, I'd probably say book, even though I like raged against this book in a lot of videos. I don't know. I was really disappointed in the adaptation, so I guess book. So there you have it, folks. I don't know what the total tally is, but these are all very different. Like, in my mind, they're all very different, and all the books are very different. I feel like we covered a lot of genres. I might do another one of these. I could also do like a TV show one, which would be fun, or like a limited series one. There are a lot of movies I still have to talk about, and there are a lot of movies that I've seen the movies a lot, but I haven't read the books yet that I need to get on board with. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed making it, and peace out, goodbye. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye. That's not my outro, but whatever.